Insecurity is something that quietly follows us, shaping the way we think, act, and perceive ourselves. It hides in the moments when we second-guess our reflection in the mirror, noticing every flaw that others might not even see, analyzing the curve of our nose, the shape of our body, or the way our clothes fit just a little differently than we had hoped. It creeps into the hesitation before speaking up in a room full of people, making us wonder if our words will be met with judgment, if our voice is too shaky, if our opinions truly matter. It shows up in the way we shrink ourselves, literally and figuratively, to avoid drawing attention, crossing our arms, looking down, softening our voice, or choosing silence over the risk of being noticed. Some insecurities are small, like feeling awkward in certain outfits, the way a shirt clings too tightly, or how a certain color makes us feel out of place. Others are deeply ingrained, formed over years of social conditioning, childhood experiences, or passing comments that left a scar. Comments that were meant as jokes but stuck in our minds, shaping how we see ourselves. A single remark about our height, weight, or features can replay endlessly, growing into something much bigger than the person who said it ever intended. Regardless of what they are, insecurities have one thing in common. They shape the way we interact with the world and with ourselves, influencing our confidence, our relationships, and even the paths we choose in life. For some, insecurity starts in childhood. Maybe a classmate laughed at the way your nose looked, scrunching their face in exaggerated disgust. Or someone teased you about your height, calling you names that seemed harmless to them but felt like a quiet humiliation to you. At first, it seems insignificant, a single comment, a passing joke. But words have a way of sticking, carving themselves into the corners of our minds long after the person who said them has forgotten. The human mind has a tendency to latch on to negativity, replaying it over and over, making something small feel monumental. It doesn't matter if the words were said once or 100 times. If they hit the right nerve, they become part of the way we see ourselves, growing louder each time we look in the mirror or hear our own voice. Before long, a harmless joke turns into a belief. My nose is too big. I'm too short. I don't look the way I should. And once that belief takes root, it grows, shaping our confidence, our choices, and even our dreams. It influences the way we carry ourselves, the way we dress, the way we navigate social situations. We start avoiding certain angles in photos, shying away from activities where our insecurities might be noticed, or overcompensating in other areas to distract from what we perceive as flaws. What started as a passing remark from someone else becomes an internal voice that whispers in moments of doubt, convincing us that we are somehow less, that we must work harder to be enough. The world around us doesn't make it any easier. Society has a way of deciding what is normal or attractive, and if we don't fit into that mold, we start to feel like we're falling short, as if our worth is tied to how well we match an arbitrary checklist. In many cultures, height is associated with confidence and power. A taller man is often viewed as more dominant, while a shorter man might feel overlooked, literally and figuratively, whether it's in professional settings, dating, or even casual social interactions. This isn't just an illusion. Studies have shown that taller men are often perceived as more competent, more authoritative, and even more attractive, leading to real advantages in areas like job promotions, leadership opportunities, and social status. The same goes for facial features, body shape, skin tone. Society picks a standard often reinforced by media, fashion, and entertainment, and those who don't fit within it start to feel like they're not enough. Women, for example, are constantly bombarded with images of ideal beauty, flawless skin, symmetrical features, a specific body type that seems to change with every trend. One decade, curves are celebrated, the next, thinness is idolized. And yet, the people who set these standards rarely consider the impact they have on self-esteem. But here's the thing. These standards are not set in stone. They change over time, they shift across cultures, and most importantly, they are not an accurate measure of a person's worth. What's considered attractive today may not be the same tomorrow, and what one society admires, another may overlook entirely. True value isn't found in fitting an ever-changing mold. It's in embracing what makes us unique, despite the pressure to conform. Yet, when insecurity takes hold, logic doesn't always matter. It doesn't care how many people reassure us, how much evidence contradicts our fears, or how irrational it might seem from the outside. If a person feels like they are not enough, that belief can become all-consuming, creeping into every corner of their life. It influences the way they carry themselves, the way they dress, the way they speak, and even the way they engage with the world around them. Someone who believes they are too short might slouch or avoid standing near taller people, hoping not to draw attention to the difference, even if no one else notices. Someone who dislikes their nose might learn to pose a certain way in photos, strategically angling their face to minimize what they perceive as a flaw. Or they might let their hair fall just right to cover it, developing habits so instinctual they don't even realize they're doing it. A person who feels insecure about their voice may speak softly, afraid to take up space in conversations, or avoid speaking altogether, convincing themselves that their words don't hold value. These small adjustments seem harmless at first, just tiny accommodations to ease discomfort, but they add up. Over time, insecurity doesn't just affect the way we feel, it affects the way we live. It dictates our choices, limits our experiences, and can even push us away from opportunities we would otherwise embrace. It can make us say no to invitations, avoid certain careers, or shrink ourselves in relationships, all to escape the fear of being judged. And the longer these insecurities go unchallenged, the more power they gain, turning what was once a passing doubt into an invisible force that shapes our entire existence. What makes insecurity even more powerful is the way it isolates us. It convinces us that we are the only ones struggling with these thoughts, as if everyone else has somehow escaped the burden of self-doubt. We look around and assume that everyone else is comfortable in their skin, that no one else is analyzing their reflection the way we do, scrutinizing every angle, every perceived flaw, every detail that we believe makes us less than. But the truth is, nearly everyone has something they feel insecure about, no matter how confident they seem on the surface. The friend who radiates self-assurance, who always knows what to say and never seems to hesitate, might secretly hate their smile and avoid laughing too hard in photos. The celebrity with the perfect appearance admired by millions might feel uncomfortable without makeup, carefully curating their public image to hide the features they dislike. The athlete with the sculpted physique, praised for their strength and discipline, might still feel like they're not strong enough, pushing themselves beyond their limits in a relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Insecurity is universal. It does not discriminate between the rich and the poor, the famous and the unknown, the successful and the struggling. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the way we compare ourselves to others, in the standards we believe we must meet. Yet, despite how common it is, insecurity has a way of making each of us feel like we are suffering alone, trapped in a silent battle that no one else could possibly understand. This isolation is what gives insecurity its power. The more we believe that our flaw is unique to us, the more we let it define us, allowing it to seep into the way we see ourselves and the world around us. It becomes more than just a passing thought. It turns into a filter through which we interpret our experiences. And when insecurity becomes a defining trait, it doesn't just stay in the background. It starts to shape every aspect of our lives in ways we don't even realize. A person who feels unattractive might avoid social gatherings, not just out of shyness, but out of a deep-seated fear of judgment, assuming that every glance in their direction is one of silent critique. Over time, they may withdraw from friendships, turn down invitations, or hide behind layers of makeup or carefully curated online personas, all in an effort to conceal the perceived flaw that only they truly fixate on. Someone who believes they are not smart enough might hesitate to speak up in meetings, even when they have valuable insights to share. The fear of being wrong, of sounding foolish, of confirming their own self-doubt keeps them silent, allowing others to take opportunities that could have been theirs. This hesitation doesn't just limit them professionally, it reinforces their insecurity, creating a cycle where avoidance leads to missed chances, which in turn deepens their belief in their own inadequacy. Even relationships suffer under the weight of insecurity. It can make people doubt their worth, leading them to settle for less than they deserve, or to push away those who genuinely care about them. A person convinced that they are unlovable might struggle to accept affection, always questioning whether their partner truly means what they say. Fear of rejection can manifest in jealousy, constant reassurance seeking, or even self-sabotage, misinterpreting a delayed text as disinterest or a neutral comment as a veiled insult. The more insecurity is left unaddressed, the more it warps perception, turning even the most loving interactions into something to be feared rather than embraced. But where do these insecurities come from? More often than not, they are rooted in comparison. From the moment we become aware of ourselves, we start comparing our looks, our talents, our status. Social media has made this worse, giving us a constant stream of perfect lives to measure ourselves against. Flawless skin, sculpted bodies, luxurious lifestyles. It's easy to feel like we don't measure up when we are bombarded with these images every day. But what we often forget is that these images are carefully curated. The perfect picture took dozens of tries, the flawless skin is a result of filters, and the luxurious lifestyle is often staged. Yet, despite knowing this, comparison is hard to escape. And the more we compare, the more we focus on what we lack, rather than what we have. So how do we break free from this cycle? The first step is awareness. Recognizing insecurity for what it is, a thought, not a fact, helps weaken its grip. Our minds are powerful, and the narratives we repeat to ourselves shape our reality. But just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. Instead of automatically accepting the idea that I'm not attractive or I'm not good enough, take a step back and ask, where did this belief come from? Why do I believe this about myself? Sometimes insecurities take root so subtly that we don't even remember when they began. A childhood bully might have planted the seed with a single cruel comment, but years of self-doubt watered it until it became a deeply held belief. A critical parent might have unknowingly shaped our self-perception by constantly pointing out our flaws, making us feel like we were never enough. Even society itself plays a role, setting unrealistic standards and telling us what we should look like, how we should act, and what we should achieve. These messages come at us from all directions. Magazines, movies, advertisements, even well-meaning friends who compare us to others. But once we realize that insecurity is something we were taught, we can begin unlearning it. We can start questioning these beliefs, rather than blindly accepting them. Who decided that this trait is a flaw? Who benefits from me feeling this way about myself? The truth is, many industries profit from our insecurities. Beauty companies, fashion brands, social media influencers, all capitalizing on our desire to be better. The next step is shifting perspective. Instead of viewing a trait as a flaw, try to see it as a neutral fact, or even a strength. Being short might mean you get overlooked in a crowd, but it also means you can move through tight spaces with ease. A prominent nose might not fit conventional beauty standards, but it can give your face character and uniqueness. The things we see as imperfections are often the very things that make us memorable. Think of the people who stand out in history, not because they fit a mold, but because they broke it. Another powerful tool is self-compassion. We are often our own harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards that we would never impose on others. If a friend came to you and said, "I feel ugly because I'm short," you wouldn't tell them, "Yeah, you are." You would reassure them, remind them of their strengths, and help them see beyond their insecurity. So why not offer yourself the same kindness? Self-compassion is not about pretending to love every part of yourself overnight. It's about learning to treat yourself with the same patience and understanding that you give to others. Finally, remember that insecurity loses power when it is exposed. The more we hide our perceived flaws, the more we believe they are flaws. But when we start talking about them, we realize that we are not alone. That the things we worry about are often things that others barely notice, that the weight we carry is lighter when shared. At the end of the day, insecurity is just another language, a way our mind tries to convince us that we are not enough. It whispers in the back of our minds, repeating old criticisms, magnifying small imperfections, and distorting the way we see ourselves. But like any language, it is learned over time, shaped by experiences, comparisons, and the words of others. And just as it can be learned, it can also be unlearned, rewritten, and replaced with something better. It starts with challenging the narratives we've been told, questioning whether our so-called flaws are really flaws at all, or just differences that society has arbitrarily labeled as undesirable. It means recognizing that the voices of insecurity are not our own. They are echoes of past experiences, of unrealistic beauty standards, of outdated beliefs that no longer serve us. Replacing this language requires patience, but it is possible. It begins with small acts of self-acceptance, choosing to stand tall instead of shrinking, embracing uniqueness instead of apologizing for it, seeing value in ourselves beyond the superficial. Over time, these choices add up, and the voice of insecurity begins to fade, replaced by something stronger: confidence, self-respect, and the understanding that we were never meant to fit into a mold. We were meant to break it.